Now it's time for another Board Game Brawl preview with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com. Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called Small Star Empires, and it's from the company Arcona Games. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page. The Kickstarter is running right now. You can follow the link up in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. Those links will take you to the Kickstarter page. You can find out more information and hopefully consider backing the project. Now, Small Star Empires is a territory control game. Each player takes control of a different foundling star empire, and you are sending out your colony ships to find new uninhabited systems to colonize or to make trade stations, and basically just trying to get as much territory as you possibly can, possibly even putting yourself next to enemy systems in order to get your trade routes going, that type of thing. There's very specific ways in which you move your pieces. It's a deterministic game with no luck. So let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played with a prototype version of the game. Let me go ahead and stress that. So what you see in this prototype may not be what you see in the final version of the game. You should go to the Kickstarter page and find out more information on that. But then we're going to come back. I'll give you my final thoughts. Small Star Empires is a competitive game for 2 to 4 players. The goal is to be the player with the highest amount of points at the end. You gain points by establishing control over star systems. The end is reached when it is determined that no legal moves are left in the game, or when every player has put out all of their colonies and trade stations. To start the game, you must first construct the galaxy. The layout will change slightly depending on the number of players, and you're encouraged to be creative with your setups in future games. But generally speaking, you're going to randomize the 7 sector tiles and cluster them together, then attach each player's home system sector to the outer edges. Each sector tile is composed of several different types of systems. Star systems need to be colonized and can give you 1 to 3 points at the end of the game depending on how many planets are on each one. Nebula systems come in 3 different colors, and the more you control of one color at the end, the more points you'll get. Empty systems can also be colonized, but won't inherently get you points, of course. You can, however, get points indirectly by having trade stations there, or by having it be a part of your larger territory. We'll cover all that later. There are also black hole and wormhole tiles. Should you choose to use them, they will occupy the empty system of each tile. Place them either randomly or in a balanced way. Wormholes let you jump around the board. We'll get to that in a minute. Black holes are blocking terrain. You can't move onto one, and you can't pass through it. There are also variant tiles. These tiles are randomized face down and placed in each of the empty systems on the board, should you choose to use them. You may only control these systems with colonies, and so can't enter if you don't have any left. When a ship enters a face down tile system, flip it to see what happens. Some of these are special Federation tiles, which grant you different points depending on special conditions, or asteroid fields that could damage your ship, or even tricolor nebula. After setup, each player chooses a color. They get pieces representing colony ships, trade stations, and colonies. Depending on the number of players, 2 to 4 ships are placed on each player's homeworld system, the one that shares your color. Determine the starting player and begin. Each player's turn consists of 2 things: moving one ship and then establishing control, in that order. To move a colony ship, you simply take one of your ships and move it as far as you want in one straight direction across the board. You can end your move on any unoccupied star systems, nebula, or empty systems, and you can pass through wormholes and systems you already have control of, but you can't stop on either of those. You also cannot move onto or through a black hole or a system that's under another player's control. Back to wormholes for a second. If your ship starts adjacent to a wormhole, you can basically move through it and continue your move on the other side of one of the other 2 wormholes. On the other end, you don't have to keep moving in the same direction as how you started when going in, but after that, all the same rules apply. After moving, you establish control. You place either a trade station or a colony in the system you just moved into. You can't take this back or swap later, and no other player can mess with your systems. Play then passes to the next player, who takes the same 2 actions. You must move a ship each turn, if able. If you can't, you're out of the game until every player can no longer make any legal moves. Once that happens, or if every player has put out all of their trade stations and colonies, the game ends and points are accrued. Each normal system that you have control of gives you 1 to 3 points depending on the number of planets. For one nebula of a color, you get 2 points, 5 points if you have control of 2 of the same color, and 8 points if you have all 3 of one color. Trade stations give you 1 point for each of your opponent's adjacent colonies, trade stations, or their home system. Finally, whoever has the largest territory of connected systems gets an additional 3 points. Add it all up, and whoever has the most is the winner. Now, let's get to my final thoughts. Of course, the first thing that you notice about Small Star Empires is the theme, that you are this spacefaring race and you're going out and you're conquering different systems, making colonies, all of these different types of things. And that might actually send some people running for the hills when they first hear it, because they think, oh, that's like an Ameritrash game that's going to be like 4 hours long or 12 hours long, and just super uber complicated and fiddly. But what they went for here with Small Star Empires was, as the name implies, a small, light game that's very easy to learn, very quick to pick up, and very quick to play, and that is deterministic. So unlike a lot of these bigger, more epic fantasy, science fiction games, there's not a ton of dice rolling. There's no dice rolling in the game. It's just strategically trying to outwit and outthink your opponent. So it's sort of a puzzly aspect in a sense. Like, how do I best take over the most amount of territory that I possibly can? Where do I put my trade stations? Where do I put my colonies? How do I manipulate my ships or manipulate the wormholes on the board, and perhaps even the variant tiles if you're using those, in the best possible way to get as many points as I possibly can at the end of the game. So it's a point maximization game in a very real sense. But you have tons of de facto interaction with the other players, because first off, you have the trading stations, and simply plopping down one of those is going to force your opponent to think in different ways, like, oh, well, I really want to put my stuff down here, but that's going to be giving them points. But who cares if it's giving me a bigger amount of points, if it's worth it to me, or maybe that player is not as much of a threat, so I need to worry about this other colored player over here. There's a lot of really interesting interaction there as far as like how you place everything. So it's not in your face, I can't do anything to stop you from putting down a colony, but perhaps I've already determined and stopped you from putting it where you might want it to have put it, just in the way that I've put down my colony or my space station. I think that the wormhole and the black hole make things very interesting, because it sort of gives you new options to move, but it also, the black hole in particular, keeps you from moving into certain places and acts as sort of a roadblock, which might help you as well, depending on what you're trying to accomplish and how it impedes your opponents. Then you have all the variant tiles, which throw little wrenches into the mix and that keep things interesting, where you can have the tricolor nebula, which opens up that strategy a bit more. The Asteroid Field, which is another obstacle like the black hole, but one that could actually hinder you because you fly right into it and get damaged. The new Federation tiles, which will give you different amount of points. Like if you take control of it, you get points, but also depending on how other systems are lined up around you that are controlled by your systems or other players. There's just a lot of, despite the fact that it is a small, light game that's easy to play, the potential for it to sort of expand into a larger game is there. It can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. And again, this game is going to be good for people who want the spacefaring theme, but want it in a simpler, faster time frame, but also want deterministic gameplay as opposed to just random dice shucking, and whoever wins is the person who was the luckiest. So if any of those categories sound like something that you fit into, you should definitely go to the official Kickstarter project page, find out more information, and hopefully consider backing it for yourself. There's going to be a link in the top corner of your screen, as well as in the description section underneath this video, and that will take you there. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Small Star Empires from Arcona Games. Take care. Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.